Welcome to The New Next, a podcast that addresses current events and how they will impact the future. Co-hosted by the inquisitive public speaking champion, Mike McVeigh, and energy, economics, and technology expert, Matt Jensen. Join us as we explore all things energy, economic, tech, and political, and how they will affect our future. The Prime Minister of Japan dying.
Oh, interesting.
Have you not heard that yet?
No, I have. But I forgot about it. All right, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, I only read a small article, probably a brief about the article. I didn't know if you had any specific things to talk about it with him. I honestly didn't know much about him. Like, if you would have shown me a picture of him and stuff, I wouldn't have identified him at all. I think I can identify China's by face, but not necessarily by name.
Yeah.
I still haven't named him.
Shinzo Abe.
That was the Japanese one?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because if it's the Chinese one, I definitely would not have known. But I know that he, at the time of his death, he had been the longest serving Japanese prime minister in a long time. Though I couldn't find dates off of the article. I had to go and look those up later. I think
it was 2007 to 2009, and then 2011 to like 2020 or something like that.
Yeah. He made some interesting statements that we kind of what we talked about really early on about how do we help Ukraine, or what's our stance supposed to be in the war. And he said that the U.S. doesn't need to take everything. Like the world doesn't need to go to the U.S. to solve all its military problems.
Yeah, totally.
But that we should still strongly trust the U.S. when it comes to a lot of the international things that are going on.
Yeah.
Because, and the way it was said, it was not, because I know this is a little bit political, but it's not political for the sake of politics. It seems like during Bush II's first term specifically, the world was really optimistic and hopeful based on how Bush communicated what our goals were as a nation, as a military. And then when some of that stuff got upended, the press started trusting, ultimately stopped trusting the president. The public stopped trusting the press and the world as a whole, like people who were maybe outside of Britain, people who are our allies, like the French and Germans and stuff, they kind of started taking a bigger step back of saying like, yeah, we're not necessarily into what you guys are doing anymore.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of in that context, Japan was, or the prime minister was saying, basically, we still need to trust that the U.S. is looking out for the world, but we don't necessarily need to put everything on the U.S.'s back.
And I think that's important for them too, because regionally they have North Korea and China.
Mm-hmm.
That I would say are becoming more dominant militarily. And I don't think until recently, like Japan really even had a standing army since World War II. So I know that they've been trying to invest a lot in more peacekeeping sort of stuff, but it's, you have Japan and Australia out there that are kind of our two big, strong allies economically. And with both of them, I see them really taking steps to build more defensive capabilities than we've seen in recent years. So I think it's a good thing for them. They're pretty solid countries. I don't know if you read about the motive for why he was killed. Shinzo Abe.
I actually didn't see that he was killed. I just saw that he died. So
yeah, so
apparently he was killed.
He was assassinated.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so he was running, I think, for basically a minister, like a kind of like a House position, to kind of get back in politics, and someone came up behind him and shot him in the back with a homemade shotgun. And I expected it to be related to something that he had done from a political sense. But I read that the motive for the killing was that the murderer's family had gotten into kind of like a culty type church that apparently Shinzo was affiliated with. And they had essentially lost all their money through it. So that was the motive of why he killed him, was because of the church affiliation. So yeah, it was pretty wild, but it's, he's known for Abenomics. So kind of his like economic philosophy, and it's he seemed to be pretty well liked, but R.I.P.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of sad is the fact that first of all, I even heard about it probably is weird because I haven't seen anything at all in social media about it. I heard more when, again, I'm horrible with names, but the lady prime minister from Germany, when she stepped down,
Merkel.
Like I heard, yeah, I know. I mean, I know the name when you say it, but
yeah,
when she stepped down, I heard more fanfare about that on social media. Heck, even the new Supreme Court justice, I haven't heard that much about, but I still heard more about that than I've heard about Japan's prime minister apparently getting assassinated, not just killed or not just dying. So that's kind of creepy and weird. And I guess when we talk about some of these world politics or world geopolitics, geoenergy kind of stuff, we talk about Ukraine, Russia, China fairly regularly, but there's some of these other world leaders and stuff and powers that have kind of slipped under the radar.
Yeah.
And that's not good. We might not need to know every single country's leader, but like I don't think I could honestly tell you the last time I could remember the name of a Japanese leader since maybe around Korea, the Korean War, and honestly, even that I'd probably have to look up just to confirm. So that's weird, and it's sad because assassinated leaders are always popular. And don't lead to any problems whatsoever.
It's just weird. Like usually you think when I first saw it, I was like, well, surely this is politically motivated. And then it's related to some culty church sort of thing. So that was surprising. But it's, it's sad to see people get killed like that. And I think it's generally a sad story.
Mm-hmm.
That he had to go down like that. So
if you would like to learn more about the New Next podcast, find us at thenewnextpodcast.com, where you can suggest a topic you would like for us to cover. If you enjoyed what you heard, share the podcast, tell a friend about it, or rate us with 5 stars.